Hi, my name is Megan Levinson. I am a master's student in the sports psychology program at John F. Kennedy University, and I'm very excited to be here to talk to you all today. So before I get started in what I want to talk about today, I kind of want to quickly go over what sports psychology is and a mental performance coach. Basically, a mental performance coach provides athletes with the tools to translate their potential into successful performance outcomes. So basically, they help athletes take their performance from here up to here with these mental skills tools that I'm talking about when I say tools. Athletes a lot of times are looking for answers to help with different issues, maybe they're focusing or how to improve their scores. And a mental performance coach is not there to give them the answers. We're there to provide them with those mental skills and those strategies so that they could really answer those questions for themselves. So today, what I'm here to talk about is something that I think I would love to study in the future, and it's really how can we find out what are the most effective characteristics to include in a mental training program for pre-professional dancers to enhance or develop mental toughness. And this is something that I'm very passionate about because I have a background in dance, and there is a lot of mental skills and different strategies that I wish I had before I entered my professional career. So I would really love to develop a successful and effective mental training program for pre-professional dancers. So numerous studies have acknowledged that mental toughness is one of the most important attributes in achieving athletic success. Some of the studies were done by Jones, Hampton, and Cannerton, Bull, Shambrook, James, and Brooks, and Thewell, Weston, and Greenless, just to name a few. Sherd referred to mental toughness as the mindset behind sporting achievement. So because there's so much research behind how important mental toughness is in athletic success, this is why I really wanted to focus on mental toughness in my future research. And I think what's most important is that we define what mental toughness is. I'm sure by a show of hands, who has heard of the word mental toughness? Yeah, basically everyone. You've probably heard of it in the news, maybe during an interview, athletes use it themselves, commentaries, and it's noted in a lot of anecdotal studies. But to really come to a strong, definitive definition of mental toughness, Jones conducted a study in 2002. It was a qualitative study, and it was to address the definition of mental toughness as well as the essential attributes of a mentally tough athlete. And the study proposed that mental toughness is a natural or developed psychological edge that enables mentally tough performers to cope with the demands of sport better than their opponents. Specifically, such athletes are more consistent and superior in remaining determined, focused, and in control under pressure. And Jones also concluded that there are 12 attributes that are considered fundamental to the makeup of a mentally tough athlete. The definition and these attributes, the definition was supported by 2 studies and some of those essential attributes by 2 sport-specific studies, one by Bull, Shambrook, and James, and Brooks. They did a study on elite cricket players, and Thewell, Weston, and Greenless did a study on elite soccer players. Both of the studies were also qualitative studies. And the essential attributes that were supported by these 2 sport-specific studies were self-belief, desire, and motivation, performance focus and lifestyle, and dealing with pressure and anxiety. So even though there were these, global essential attributes that were found across all of these studies, there were some sport-specific attributes that were found in those 2 studies. And Bull also suggested that the components that were learned or enhanced from the mental skills training program were more of fine-tuning attribute to the development of mental toughness. He definitely did not dismiss the importance of the role of a mental skills training program, but his findings highlighted that there were other contributing factors that were super important to the development of mental toughness. One specifically that he pointed out was environmental factors. So using mental skills, Krust and Azadi conducted a quantitative study to look at the use of mental skills with athletes. And his quantitative study addressed the relationship between mental toughness and athletes' use of psychological performance strategies. And this study found that there was a positive correlation between mental toughness and the use of a variety of psychological strategies. Specifically, he pointed out the use of goal setting and imagery as being really important towards mental toughness. So that's just something important to keep in mind when creating a mental training program, to really include psychological skills or mental skills that will work on goal setting and imagery. Another study by Nicholas, Palman, Levy, and Blackhouse conducted a qualitative study to explore the relationship between mental toughness and psychological skills reported to determine mental toughness. And they also found a significant and positively correlated relationship with problem and approach coping strategies and mental toughness. Specifically mental imagery, so again, mental imagery came up, effort, expenditure, thought control, and dealing with problems. A qualitative study by Thewell et al. Examined the development of mental toughness in elite female gymnasts. And the main aim of this study was to examine mental toughness development from a sports-specific approach. And they found a clear role for mental skills training within mental toughness development, specifically reporting that setting goals and imagery was very important for these gymnasts. And imagery, they found it when it was imagery of past successful performances. That was very, very crucial to developing mental toughness. So again, imagery has once again come up. So this is probably a global characteristic that is important to work on and important to include in mental training programs with athletes, depending, doesn't really matter what sport they play. It just seems as if it's coming up a lot so far. However, in this study, once again, it was found that mental skills training was not the only factor that played into the role of mental toughness development. This study found that people inside the gym and outside the gym had a very big contributing factor on the development of mental toughness in the gymnasts. So again, it's just showing that it's not only mental skills training that is something that has to be thought of when trying to help athletes become mentally tough. So it's not a one-size-fits-all mental way to create mental toughness. There's definitely things that are specific to different sports, as we have seen from different studies. And there's also different characteristics that are really important for certain sports in particular to work on. A study done by Gucciardi, Gordon, and Dimmock investigated football players using a personal construct method. And that basically provides the opportunity for qualitative researchers to create an innovative way of researching personal experience. So that's what they did in this study, and they found a majority of characteristics consistent with previous research. So they suggest that there is several global mental toughness characteristics, but that some were specific to football. So again, it's just going back to, there are global characteristics that are important, but finding what characteristics are specific to what sport is so important in creating an effective mental training program. Some of the global characteristics are self-belief, attentional control, motivation, commitment and determination, positive and tough attitude, resilience, enjoying and handling pressure, and quality preparation. So these same researchers conducted a second study. This time it was a quantitative study, and they used the results from the previous qualitative study on football players. And they evaluated the effectiveness of 2 different mental skills training programs in enhancing mental toughness. So what they did is they compared the mental skills training program that targeted the characteristics that were identified from their previous study with a more traditional mental skills training program. And what it resulted in is actually that both mental skills training programs appear to be equally effective in enhancing mental toughness. And how this transfers into applied practice, I think practitioners should just always consider a number of different factors when attempting to develop mental toughness in athletes. And I think all of this research really reinforces that tailored interventions are necessary. Tailoring it to the sport is very important. But if possible, if a practitioner is able to do one-on-one work with some of those athletes in that the group mental training programs, that they should also try and tailor these interventions on a per individual basis. So my future study, I would love to conduct a qualitative design for my future study. I think that mental toughness is a really complex concept, and I think that doing a qualitative study allows you to kind of connect and understand the participants and their experience through the study a little bit more. Especially, through those interviews, I would love to do an interview before the mental training program and then after the mental training program to really hear their opinions and their beliefs. And then I think it's also really important to conduct a second follow-up study, just like was done with those football players, to get some other quantitative data to support the findings from the qualitative study. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's presentation, and thank you for listening.